Hello, this is Eric Burton, and I want to welcome you to my Week 5 integrated video presentation. The topic that I'll be mostly going over is our United States presidents, which actually to me is one of my favorite subjects that I like reading about as well, as far as regarding U.S. history. In my thematic unit, we'll be going over as far as the presidents and also two other key figures that are notable in U.S. history is Abraham Lincoln and George Washington. Now, in my presentation that I have here regarding my board, I have my TEEPs that I have listed here above, and unfortunately the camera's not that great where you can read them. The TEEPs were as far as social studies, TEEP 1 of history. The student understands how individuals, events, and ideas have influenced the history of the various communities, and the student is expected to describe how individuals, events, and ideas have changed communities past and present. So I want students to understand how each president has changed our past and how also it influences the present that we have here today, as far as what laws that they've changed as well. Next TEEP is going to be of social studies skills. The student applies critical thinking skills to organize and use information acquired from a variety of valid sources, including electronic technology. The student is expected to A. Research the information including historical and current events and geographic data on community and world using a variety of valid print, oral, visual, and internet resources. Social studies next TEEP, social studies skills to the student communicates in written, oral, or visual forms. The student is expected to express idea orally based on a knowledge and experience. Language arts TEEPs, there are going to be two, which are reading strategies. Students comprehend a variety of texts, drawing on useful strategies indeed as needed. Students are expected to ask relevant questions, seek clarification, locate facts and details about stories and texts that support the answers with the evidence from the text. Writing, the next language arts teach will be writing. Students write about their own experiences. Students are expected to write about important and personal experience. As far as concerning of the board, there is going to be as far as 3 activities, and also there'll be a library of information that the student will be able to draw the information up to answer the questions of those activities. Those books will consist of easy to read books such as Honest Abe Lincoln, easy to read stories about Abe Lincoln, George Washington, soldier, hero, and president, Woodrow Wilson, a Nobel Prize winner, James Madison, a picture book over George Washington. Now, the grade that I want that this can be given to or taught to will be 3rd grade, but I also wanted to make it where it's also accessible to lower grades. It's also going up to higher grades going forward. Also, Abraham Lincoln, Frederick Douglass, George Washington, 25 great projects that you can build yourself, because I want the students also to be able to get involved, as far as the history of our presidents. And do you know much about the presidents? Now, there's a lot of information that we don't know as far as regarding a lot of your U.S. presidents. As far as, for example, when they say, Jimmy Carter had a thing about nuts. You know why? His family had a nut farm. That was quite interesting, wasn't it? Now, also, our country's president, that's done by National Geographic all the way up until the present President Barack Obama. Now, also what I like about this is that it gives every bit of information for that time period of that president's term. Because I think our children and our students should be able to, they know a lot of information about our presidents. It's part of our history. Now, the first activity that will be going on will be our United States president. As you see here, as listed as far as activity 1. What the student will basically do, they'll choose a president that they're interested in. They can choose from the books, from the series of books that I have here. as far as it's going to be in their library. They'll also document when they served. And they'll also document what's this president famous for. And if you hear that bird chirping over there, it's my little buddy. What is the most interesting fact about this president? What did they find interesting? Describe your president to me. I want the student to be able to describe that president, how it appeals to them, in their own words. And if you were to meet this president, what would you ask them? Because a lot of people think that whenever they see the president speaking, it's like, what would I ask that guy right there? If I had a questioner in a future moment, what would I ask them? I want them to be ready. The next activity is more of a picture activity, and concerning two of our key presidents. President George Washington, which of course one of our founding fathers, one of the first presidents that was responsible for starting the great legacy, and also Abe Lincoln, which was one of our presidents that had to make the most crucial decision and dealing with the most daunting of times of the country fighting with itself. Now, what we'll do basically. The student will be instructed, there'll be two books, which I have here, two books about Abraham Lincoln and George Washington. And in that picture, they'll have to match 4 different pictures that correlate to that president. It's like, how do we remember the former president Abraham Lincoln? Well, some of the key things we remember him by, he's on a penny. He's also on Mount Rushmore, Lincoln Memorial, and also, he lived in a log cabin. Now, there will be other things that are on there that also can misconstrue the student as well, as far as getting the answer wrong. And also, going further below is how do we remember former President George Washington? Well, cutting down a cherry tree, he's on the $1 bill. He's on Mount Rushmore. And he was also in the Revolutionary War. And he's also part of the Declaration of Independence. But again, there'll be a jumble of pictures where the student will have to place each picture that goes into that square as far as how we remember that president. Third and final activity is going to be over Mount Rushmore. Is a list of the presidents that are on there: George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Abraham Lincoln, and Theodore Roosevelt. And each one of those presidents, what I want them to do is basically say what did that president do. Give a description of what that president did during his term. What made him important? Why do you think he's on Mount Rushmore? And below that, I want the students to be able to pick a choice. If you had a different idea as far as Mount Rushmore, who would you pick? Who would be the president you'd want on there, and why? Because when we go through the presidents as far as U.S. history, there's not a lot that are named. There's not a lot that we are actually taught about. Only the most ones that portrayed in critical history. That's why I think Activity 1 and Activity 3 is actually two of the most important things, because I want the kids to know, I want my students to know that there are other presidents other than Washington, Abraham Lincoln, Thomas Jefferson, Madison, Kennedy. There are other presidents that are out there, maybe not so good ones, but they are part of our American history. They help make up our Declaration of Independence. They help make up our government. They help make up our laws. They help us establish the country that we know today. And I think it's important that students know these things going forward, because nowadays, if you ask somebody, which I've asked a question, what other presidents were there besides Abe Lincoln, George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Kennedy, Ronald Reagan, and going forward, there's some of the ones they can't even name. Like when I ask them about, do you know about Rutherford B. Hayes? A lot of people don't. I'll be quite honest with you, neither did I. But that's one I think is crucial that I think our students should know about their history and about their background and how their government's formed. And also, well, as far as for special ed, for the additional information, what I want my students to do is they do a presidential portfolio of each one as far as extra credit. Basically, they print up a picture, list the students, the president's name, and what he did for extra credit. And as far as my special needs students, that's really where Activity 2 comes in, as far as my special needs students are concerned. Because that way they can be able to tell me through using PECS as far as how they remember that president, of what they've been told about that president, what that president is about. As I stated earlier, running Abraham Lincoln, the Penny, Log Cabin, Mount Rushmore, Lincoln Memorial, those can be used as far as PECS regarding special needs students. Because I think it's crucial that that's our special needs. Be able to participate in activities. So I have a special needs child, and I want him to know about the presidents and his history as well. So I'm hoping that you like the activity. I hope it wasn't too boring for you. And I want to thank you very much for your patience. But again, if you do have time, read about your presidents, so that way you can teach your class. Thank you.